Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Gerard Anderson makes it 13 wins, no defeats, and 13 KOs. Ooh. Stops Jerry Forrest in the second round. Forrest was there supposedly going to take Anderson rounds. Forrest is 35 years old, and he's kind of made his name, not with victories, but with a couple of draws in recent years. Earlier this year, actually, he did lose a fight. He lost his last fight to Kubrat Pulev, which was a 12-round unanimous decision. He didn't look good in that fight at all. And Pulev, of course, is past his best. But prior to that, he drew with Michael Hunter and gave Hunter all sorts of problems. Many people think he won that fight. I did. And before that, he drew with Zhilei Zhang. And again, he really gave Zhang an awful lot of problems. Zhang looked way out of shape and probably mentally not there. So bearing in mind those two draws, he also went the distance with Carlos Takam. You know, he's a good gatekeeper. Bearing in mind those two draws and the fact that he has gone the distance with some, contenders, he was there to give Gerard Anderson the real big baby. Anderson calls himself. Obviously, a little poke at Mr. Pharmacist. What's his name? That one. I'm delighted. So I've forgotten his name. I won't even remember it. Forget it. He's not significant. Him who, was a walking pharmacy, the one who took all those PEDs and ended up. Miller, of course, is the name, but forget about him. This is the real big baby, and he does look good, Anderson. Southpaw, as was Jerry Forrest. So you got a heavyweight contest with two southpaws, and in the first 20 seconds, Forrest was throwing hands, and he actually landed a couple of. He really did clip Anderson a couple of times, and really got his attention. And then probably about a minute and a half in, Anderson suddenly had woken up and starts letting his hands go. And at the end of the round, let's say the last 40 seconds, he managed to clip Forrest and stung him a bit. And Forrest ended up in a corner and was just being railed on. Now, Anderson's only 23 years old, so you can argue he probably hasn't got his full man strength yet, maybe. But I tell you what, he was in his prime as far as Jerry Forrest was concerned, because he was battering Forrest. And in that first round, Anderson threw over 100 punches. So a lot of youthful vigour going on there with the southpaw Anderson. He actually had Forrest. I think Forrest was railing Forrest, but Forrest was trying to punch between the attack, which stopped the referee from stepping in. But he was firing some half decent punches, technically decent anyway. Not really landing much, and it didn't deter Anderson. Anderson just kept throwing hands, and in the end, Forrest made it out of the corner, and kind of just looked very wobbly. He was sort of pushed back with another attack by Anderson. I think it was in the adjacent corner, maybe. I can't remember. But anyway, it was such a battering that when the bell went, Anderson went back to his corner, and the doctor came up, asked him a few questions, checked his jaw, looked at his mouth, light in the eyes to make sure the concussion was, I think Forrest was mildly concussed after that first round. But he was, compos mentis. He managed to give the doctor a reason not to stop the fight. The ref was looking at Forrest very, very closely, though, and Forrest came out in the second round, fired a few jabs, was trying to do some work, but Anderson just walked straight through him, really. Again, the hands were going and in bunches from Anderson. Forrest couldn't really handle it, was trying to slip and slide, maybe counter occasionally, but it wasn't happening. And again, the 35-year-old Forrest gets trapped on the ropes. I think he was pushed into a corner, more or less. And there was one particular punch from Anderson that just had Jerry Forrest sagging badly. He sort of leant forward, and his hands were dropped. And he wasn't hitting the floor, but he was clearly buzzed very, very badly. And the referee stepped in and stopped it. So not before time, to be honest with you. So Anderson moves to 13-0 with 13 KOs, and he's not bad. He's only 23. I don't see any hurry with him. Just let him continue picking up wins. He's 6'4", not the biggest of heavyweights by today's giant standards, but he handled a tricky guy in Jerry Forrest. Again, that's another southpaw. They were both southpaws, and he handled him very, very well, very impressively. Forrest was meant to give Anderson rounds. He just couldn't do it. And if you look at Anderson's recent record, I mean, you know, he's been fighting guys with decent records. You know, Jeremiah Carpentier. I mean, I know he's no great shakes. He got stopped in the second round. Vladimir Tereshkin, second round KO. I think he was undefeated, 22 wins, no defeats, maybe a draw in there as well. The last but one fight, the fight prior to Forrest, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was Russian or something. But he stopped him in the second round. So in actual fact, if you look at his record, I think I might say the last 4 or 5 fights have been second round KOs. So what they're doing is they're looking for people to take him rounds, but he's just not allowing that to happen. Anderson hits hard. He's so busy as well. He lets his hands go in multiple bunches, and it's really quite good to watch, quite entertaining. For a heavyweight, he throws a lot of punches. But the second round is obviously his favourite round because he's had his last 4 or 5 fights where he's stopped opponents, decent enough opponents, at least statistically. He stopped them all in the second round. Who's going to take him 10 rounds? Who would you put him in with? I mean, he needs those rounds, but who's going to take him rounds? Maybe a Charles Martin, someone like that. I don't know. I would put him in, you know, at this stage of his career, I'd put him in with a Luis Ortiz or someone like that. Ortiz might be too crafty for him, but I don't know, that would be a learning fight, even if he lost it. I mean, even if Luis Ortiz has got something left and Anderson was taking the distance or beating on points, he'd learn a ton. He'd learn a ton, as opposed to knocking fellas out in the second round, where all we know is that he's a southpaw. He's busy with his fists. He's got some power. But I want to see him tested. There's no great hurry because he is only 23. But let's try and get him someone who's going to do some. We're going to ask some questions, make him do a bit of homework, you know. But yeah, respect to Jared Anderson. Like I say, 13 wins, no defeats. One of the future stars, probably the biggest prospect in heavyweight boxing at the moment. Good luck to him. Did you see the fight? It was it an ESPN fight on the undercard of Teofimo Lopez, I think. Let me know what you think about Jared Anderson. Do you think he's going places or not? I think he's good. Jury's still out a little bit, but he's got the raw materials. I think he's good. Leave your comments below. I like reading your comments. I'll leave my replies. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It takes a second. Helps the channel out a great deal. Hit the like button if you liked it. Like the video. And we will speak again soon. Thanks for your time as always, and bye for now.